Hello, is it me you're looking for?
And welcome back to this thing. Starring myself, of course, Baron Bartholomew Burns III, alongside
Samantha.
Brittany.
and
I'm Chelsea. We are all here to navigate you through the universe of aesthetics, but with a slightly ugly twist.
If you didn't already know, the undead has been tickling the aesthetic bones of the art world since the late 90s.
Let's start pushing up some daisies, or rather, conceptualize some flower balls, as we jump into the incredible and unique world of Takashi Murakami.
Not even a kid is on swinging in a lit style.
Takashi Murakami.
Takashi Murakami is one of the biggest international art stars on the planet.
Focus.
So instead of just droning on about the man, let's actually call him and get him in here and then drone on. Mr. Murakami?
No, I am RoboKami, a representative for Takashi Murakami.
We would like to welcome RoboKami to the podcast. Currently based in Tokyo, Japan, Murakami works within a multi-person studio where he continues to create world-renowned murals and sculptures. For the past 40 years, he has blurred the boundaries between Japanese and Western culture within a post-war society. Currently, Murakami can be seen collaborating with celebrity brands and figures such as Kanye West, Louis Vuitton, and more within his aesthetic and his self-patented Superflat. Welcome, RoboKami.
Good introduction. Thank you for having me.
Today's journey takes us to the putrid corpse of aesthetics. A conceited zombie who peaked in high school now has learned that beauty is more than skin deep. Is aesthetics dead? Who knows? But we're here to put the fun back into funeral, so let's find out.
We'll be dissecting Murakami's work using an aesthetic lens from the unique collection of Murakami we've chosen, Tantan Bopuking, aka Girotan, Stepping on the Tail of a Rainbow, and lastly, Murakami Zombie.
You may be 6 feet under, but don't roll over in your grave just yet. We're about to get started.
Aesthetic in art refers to beauty and taste. It is a philosophy that examines how we value and judge an artwork. Often when we discuss aesthetics, we first think of the beautiful and sublime, and about a time when art was created for art's sake. But as contemporary art has evolved, so too has our understanding of aesthetics and the function of art. Aesthetics is no longer limited to the pleasure of beautiful things, but instead has expanded to include a variety of visual descriptors, which includes the ugly. Observing the ugly grants us a different type of pleasure, and one that invites the contemplation of the imperfect. In your work, RoboKami, the viewer is not only challenged by the ugliness in the content, but also by the non-Western nature of your style. Your style functions in several ways that rejects the Western perspective of aesthetics and instead gives us a fully immersive Japanese experience. When we look at your work, we can identify the inspiration you draw from the subculture of otaku, which combines cute and innocent iconography with pervasive violence. This integration of otaku refers to young people who are consumed with the digital aspects of pop culture, which in turn diminishes their social skills. RoboKami, your work stylistically incorporates a variety of influences, both Japanese and Western, that results in a distinctly unique aesthetic. Can you describe your sources of inspiration for distinct style?
I'm a geek for the Japanese animation style and also the American sci-fi stuff. For example, Star Wars, the first sequel is completely 3D. But Japanese sci-fi stuff is, kind of not moving. Completely different. So the main visual philosophy came very naturally to making flatness, but at the same time to having some dimension.
Beauty, brains, I can tell you have distinct tastes. Your style takes a viewer from a variety of Japanese aesthetics, like kawaii, which is a philosophy rooted in cuteness. Speaking of cute, I'm going to hand the mic off to our Chief Officer of Kawaii, Brittany.
Thank you, Samantha. As Samantha said, RoboKami, your aesthetic is unique. While your work appears humorous and cheerful at first glance, it has a hidden, cynical social critique under all that kitsch that calls for the viewer to look deeper to see it. You could say there's more to your work than meets the jellyfish eye. It mixes the grotesque with the kawaii in an exploration of zombie aesthetic. The zombie being emblematic of the collective anxiety of the contemporary world, which we've seen become increasingly prevalent in today's media and art. In your recent show, Murakami Zombie, a retrospective exhibition that encompasses more than 160 of your works from your 30-year career, you put more of a spotlight on this zombie aesthetic past just the linguistic signifiers within the title. RoboKami, the adorable rainbow explosions you create are known to elicit happiness, but many are meant to represent the frailty of life. For example, your film, Jellyfish Eyes, is a story about a boy who loses his father and befriends a jellyfish-like creature. This was a response to the 2011 earthquake in Japan that claimed 16,000 deaths. Similar to Kusama, your work explores trauma through the employment of colorful, seemingly cute aesthetics and design patterns. Why do you feel the need to tackle these topics of anxiety and death in your work so often?
What is a zombie? A human dies and continues to move afresh. The art world today is a world full of such zombies. As humans, we harbor a fear of various phenomena, diseases, natural disasters, wars, etc. I believe that such horror materializes in the form of monsters, demons and the undead in our culture. So whether we enjoy looking at these creatures or not, I think we all can sympathize with each other and acknowledge together where our feelings of unease come from. When there is a war or someone is murdered, there is at least an entity to blame the damage on. But for calamities, there is no counterpart to project your anger on, so it becomes absurd. When life becomes unbearable, you need to relieve that panic, and I used to think that religion was the means to do so. But adding the pandemic to that, there was nowhere to run away to and religion lost its function. I realized that art needed to serve as comfort for people.
Also, similar to Kusama, you have capitalized on the misinterpretation of your aesthetics, preying on the masses' love with the surface-level cuteness and Instagram-worthy aesthetics. You're both able to team up with many brands, such as Louis Vuitton, to commodify your work. You're able to use this Western obsession with Japanese-made in art for your financial gain. Hey Barron, what sayeth you?
So, RoboKami, it seems you have divulged into a bleak and amoral world exploring the commercial side of art. Through this journey, you've battled aesthetic-based obstacles that label your art outside of your own person and the fine art world. Despite this jab to your overall credibility, you embrace this local and international categorization, double down, and find a way to use this unique publicity as a tool to refine your social discourse and overall aesthetic presentation. This perspective seems to guide me to believe that your want to promote personal financial gain is more of a subtle screw you to the systems that rejected you. However, I still lean towards the fact that you have some disdain towards earning money due to your general want to create for the sake of creation. So, RoboKami, in this section of our dialogue, I want to explore how commercialism became a part of your overall strategy in regards to your creation. How do you think your otaku aesthetic responds to this world rather than just a financial gain?
Maybe my path as an individual artist was a vocation, not a passion, and what I really enjoyed were group efforts, where you create something together. Around age 37 or 38, I started making money and paying everyone. I had to build a system that worked for those around me. I know myself and my ability, and I know that I don't have any genius. I can only go at this strategically and look at how the game is being played. It was also challenging at first because I saw gallerists and curators only as dealers who would take a percentage. But I realized that they get involved in your career and life and finances, and they try to support and educate you. That was the moment that my perception of the art world really shifted. I saw the difference between the real art scene and the one I had left in Japan. It's a business.
Well, how are you able to guide the next generation of artists through this quote-unquote business world?
With young artists? They honestly must start out working while being poor. Rich people don't want to become artists, right? Rich people want to enjoy the dance club, buying LV, Gucci or something. So poor people, all they have is their ability to dream. Like Japan is, you know, everything is from the politics. It's super bad. Tax? Bad. Fundraising money? None. But Japan has a lot of creations, right? Why? The reason is poverty. Poverty is kind of like the big engine that can run change in the world. Japanese people accept that art and commerce will be blended, and, in fact, they are surprised by the rigid and pretentious Western hierarchy of high art.
You're referring to how hard times create stronger individuals. Stronger individuals can and will create greatness if a meticulous consideration of all factors comes into play, especially when discovered through a struggling time. I see this standing out really in your character, Mr. Dobb. Through all the years and multiple iterations of its creation, you seem to utilize this Western-based but internationally marketed character mixed with your brilliant zombie aesthetic and have it respond towards a current socio-political issue going on in the United States or Japan. This grotesque and kawaii presentation showcases how you operate with specific marketing strategies to produce your work and how you combine them with your own personal aesthetic and repurpose their functionality to make your creations credible and a response to those who mislabeled you. Isn't it just great that this entire interview is being taken place with a hypothetical representation of an international artist through a flower? Look, RoboKami, I don't mean to diminish your identity, but you represent a strong use of DIY tools procured from the elements in Takashi Murakami's philosophical and spiritual environments. But despite the metaphysicality, you still elude myself, my colleagues, and the audience on how these materials were implemented in a physical realm. So, I'm gonna pass the mic on to Chelsea Stewart for a final Q&A to explore these topics just a little bit better.
RoboKami, you seem to use scale to your advantage in your exhibitions. I think it's important to mention that you heavily rely on your employees and studio assistants for your work and your exhibitions. RoboKami, your studio practice is within the realms of geek culture, comics, and anime. And you use the scale to rely on the detail and immerse the viewer within your piece. I find it really interesting the influences of the post-war and religious aspects that fall within your work, specifically in Stepping on the Tails of the Rainbow. There we see hints of the religious aspects in play with your work, and you also reiterated the collective anxiety in an interview that the contemporary world within the Murakami zombie installation is used too. Mentioned in your curation exhibition Healing, the inspiration behind your flowers are derived from the early studies of Nihonga painting, which are the flowers are used to represent peace and happiness on the outside, and the floral motif is displaying emotions that are repressed and contradictory to what is experienced by the Japanese. as a result of what the historical traumas were in the 40s internally. It seems natural to assume that the Japanese people accept that art and commerce are blended, but are surprised by the rigid and the pretentious Western hierarchy of high art. I find it interesting to see how different your work was accepted by the New York audience and the Japanese audience, especially before and after you moved to America. Additionally, the reception of your art changed again when you arrived on the West Coast. It's fascinating to observe the differences between how the Los Angeles art scene and the New York art scene interpreted your art. RoboKami, you described finding the New York bro language something to get accustomed to in general, but also specifically in your art and practice as a whole.
I don't always enjoy curating, but I do believe it's part of my job. It's a good exercise for my brain, like warming up. Just focusing on my work would be so depressing. For me, curating is necessary. It's like physical training.
As a curator, you organized a myriad of exhibitions, beginning with the international exhibition Superflat and most recently Jellyfish Eyes 2. I would love to talk about your Superflat really quickly. You looked into the idea of healing and multifaceted work with Superflat and the far-reaching, deep influence of Japanese culture. A lot of this influence came from Japanese ceramics arts specifically, and you've stated that healing was a large theme within your work as a whole because of the 2011 tsunami. Post-tsunami, there's a lot of religious inclinations that are derived in your work. While in the West, art is predicted on the differences between highbrow and lowbrow culture, original and derivative, and art and commodity. I think that the Superflat establishes itself here as an independent lineage of Japanese contemporary art that roots itself in anime, manga, and specifically in your practice. To sum it all up, we could go on for hours on this topic and speaking with Takashi and RoboKami. It has been so interesting exploring the aesthetics and the work within your realm of Superflat and more. Brittany, any closing thoughts?
RoboKami, we have really enjoyed having you on our podcast. Thank you for coming on to chat with us about how your work has really exploited the Western episteme's obsession with Japanese-made and expanded the definition of what is deemed high art.
Stupid question and answer.
Looks like someone missed his nap time. Well, all this chatter has made us dead tired too. Now that we've zombied these points to death, we are signing off. Bye everyone. Till death do we art.
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 You just one must bloop. Do we want a segue?
Wait.
Oh.
I need to put my background back on.
He's just dancing in a corner.
Can you describe your source of it? You're muted.
You're muted. Okay, sorry guys. Okay. Thanks.
My career is stupid. I use Japanese cartoons. It's really embarrassing. Ha 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 ha.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to...
You said alphabetical.
I don't know my alphabet.
Don't cry because it's over. Be happy it happened.
No.
Absolutely not. Oh my gosh.
3, 2, 1, action.
Till death
Till death do we are.